Hey guys, so last time I talked a little bit about why we use lighting in worship. This time I want to talk a little bit more about the how. So I have this PowerPoint that I've put together, and it gives just kind of a brief overview of, again, lighting in worship. And so on the first page I have why lighting, which we talked about last time. You can go back and watch the video. There'll be a link here at the end of the video. You can go back to that one and watch it if you want. So we're jumping into how we create this environment. So we have two main jobs. We're going to help give the ability to see the focal points, and we're also going to help to create emotion and energy. So first of all, to provide the ability to see the focal points, we're going to provide front light and we're going to provide backlight. Backlight helps to set things off from whatever's behind them, whether it be a wall or anything like that. It's very important in video. And then front light, obviously, so you can see the people's faces. And then we're going to use color and changes and effects to help provide the ability to create that emotion and energy to match the room. So I'll go a little bit more in depth, a little bit on these. What we need to remember is that front light is our primary purpose in doing this. It helps people to focus on what's currently happening, whether it be the pastor up on stage teaching, if it's the praise time while we're singing. It's going to help to focus on the worship leader so that they can see what's being sung and where we're going. And then we want backlight, like I said. It's very important for video, just helps to offset from behind. Then as we jump into more of the artistic side, we talk about color. One of the important things to remember is the color theory behind it. This is a chart that shows some of the different colors and how they interact with emotions. So these, as you can see, if it's a song about nothing but the blood, like I talked about in the last video, or maybe it's talking about the love of God or how much his passion, we can be talking about using reds and things like that. For more high energy, the new life, we're going to be talking about, maybe yellow or maybe greens, more high energy colors like that. So you can use this chart, and it's really helpful to be able to see what colors will match really well. Another thing to remember is using your complementary colors. Red is obviously complementary to green, but one thing to watch for with that is obviously immediate thought is going to be for Christmas. So you have to be very delicate in using that. Blue and orange are complementary colors, and then purple and yellow. So those are really cool. Obviously, really simple if you want to use multicolors, easy ones to jump to. So you want to use either, like I said, complementary or ones that are in the same family. So you can use some blues and purples because they look very similar. They're not going to look really weird. Reds and oranges, reds and pinks, or cyans and blues, things like that. So kind of the color and whatever's going to be right next to it on a color wheel. So I also have in here a bit of a practical application. So if I'm actually teaching this project, it's just a few songs that you can listen to and pick out the colors that would go best with it. And it's just something that you can easily do on your own. You can sit down and listen to a couple songs and think what color would go well with it. And then we get into the changes. You can talk about big builds. We can go to white, or we could add more lights. Both of those are really impactful when you're going into a building part of a song. Or maybe when the song's coming back down at the end, or maybe even in the middle, maybe you want to draw it back. You can go back to the original look if you've already built up. You can just turn all the lights down a little bit, or you can pull out the front light, which is a really cool thing that I'll talk about in a little bit, how impactful that can really be. And then finally we have effects. Mostly you're going to use one of these unless you have movers. You're going to have your dimmer signs or dimmer steps. The signs are obviously going to be a lot more softer. They're going to help not be as harsh, but sometimes a step would be acceptable, and I can maybe show you a couple examples of that here in a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to use maybe a color effect. So you're going to go between two colors back and forth. Just again, remember that those colors need to complement each other. Alright guys, so next we're going to talk a little bit about different fixture types and how they're going to be used in the church environment. So first I want to dive in here. We're going to talk about first a typical profile fixture. This is going to be used for your front light typically. This is the Chauvet LED front light stuff. This is a full color mixing, so you can do complete color control of it. They also have just warm white versions. And then obviously there's the traditional conventional fixtures that you can still use for front light. However, in today's world, a lot of your LED stuff is going to be right there with the rest of your conventional stuff. It's really a great option. We use their warm white version at my church that I'm part of right now, and they've been really useful. But so that's going to be your typical. It's just going to be a lens tube on a set degree. You can purchase. You have a little bit of focus space, obviously, where you can move the lens tube in and out to focus a little bit more. And then you're going to have shutters, so you can frame down your the shape of your beam. You can square it off a little bit more, so you're only lighting certain areas. The other thing that you're typically going to have is just your typical little LED pars. These are going to be used just to throw color on things, whether it be on the wall, whether it be down on the stage, anything like that. This is the Chauvet Color Dash Par Quad 7. Have these at my home church. They're really a great little fixture. RGBA, so red, green, blue, and amber. Allowing you to use those to mix. You can get pretty well any color that you want. But yeah, so between those two, those are the two typical fixtures that you're going to see in most churches that have any kind of lighting. You're going to have your LED parts, so you can get your color, you can throw light wherever, and then you're going to have your front lights, so you can specifically focus in on areas and provide that first thing that I talked about, how our first job is to focus the front light. These also work really well for backlighting, so that you can actually help to set off for video, like I'd said. Then we're going to move into the world of movers. The movers that I'm mentioning here are a little bit higher dollar ones, but they're, I guess I've only worked with one of them. That's the LED 600 wash from Roby. It's a really nice fixture. It has a 15 to 60 degree zoom, so you can actually zoom the fixture. It's motorized. It's really nice. These moving washes means that you can put color wherever you want. One of the limitations with things like the Color Dash Par Quad 7 that I just showed you is that you have to set it, and that's where it's going to be. With the mover, you can put it wherever you want. Granted, it's going to be quite a bit more expensive than your typical just LED par. You're talking about $300 for this thing, and I'm not sure, but we're talking a few $1,000s for this thing. So there's a huge difference in price, and that's why a majority of churches are going to have just your typical little LED pars. So the next thing that we're going to look at is going to be your spots. This is the Chauvet Maverick MK2 spot. And so this fixture has a 13 to 37 degree zoom. It also has CMY color mixing. So a lot of your spots traditionally have had a color wheel. This one does have a color wheel in it, but it also has the color mixing on it, which allows you to get obviously many more colors than you would have on a color wheel. The other nice thing about this is it has the gobo breakups. So what you can see here, it has like these dots. It has a bunch of other gobos, so you can get more beam effects. The problem is you have to have haze to be able to see those beam effects. And that's a whole other world to talk about. And the final main type of moving fixtures is going to be your beam fixtures. This is a clay packy Sharpie. These are pretty well standard in the touring world for your beam fixtures. This has anywhere from a 0 to a 3.5 degree beam on it. And so that's very tight. The only thing you're going to use it for is literally getting those really tight beams. But it's a cool effect light, but it really doesn't serve a huge purpose, especially in the worship environment. As far as talking with churches. With concerts, that's a whole different story. But worship in the church setting, without having a lot of stuff going on, there's not much use for it. Alright guys, so for the final part of this video, I just kind of want to walk you through the process of how I sit down and how I'm going to prepare for a service and program. First thing I'm going to do is listen to the music. That's the important thing. You need to know what the songs are doing, where they're going, and how they're going to work like that. So once I get the music listened to, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to go, what do I want to do? First, I'm going to look at colors. After that, I'm going to start looking at what fixtures I want to use. And you might not have a large variety of fixtures to use, so you might be a little more limited. If you have a bigger rig, you're going to be able to decide, do I want to use all the fixtures for this right now? Do I want to use just a very minimal amount and then build in later? Things like that. So I'm going to sit there and I'm going to figure out first color and what fixtures I'm going to want to use. After that, I'm going to move into where do I want to do builds within the song? Where are some places that it might call for it? And this is kind of where you split. There's one of two options when you're running lights. You can either pre-program or you can do what's called busking, which is running everything live. And so I usually do a bit of a combination of that. I'm going to typically program my first cue, so I'm going to have a place to start from, and then I'll go ahead and I'll start running live after that. That way, I can go ahead and I can match what the congregation is doing. If the congregation is building energy, I'll build in more lights, I'll build in more effects, things like that. But I can make that decision, where if I pre-program, it's a lot harder to jump over cues or jump to another cue farther on without maybe changing some of the looks and making it obvious that you're jumping past things. That's why I like to do a lot more live stuff, but it's totally up to what works for you and for your church. So like I said, I'm going to sit down, figure out what color that I want to use primarily for the song, what fixtures I want to use, and then how I want to build. And from there, really, it's just listening to the song, seeing how things fit. I'll throw in an example here. I had talked about the difference between a sine effect and a step effect. I'm going to show you guys an example of where I used a step effect at a conference that I did last fall, and where that step effect actually fit in really well within the song. This song I completely programmed out pretty well, all of it. And sometimes you want to do that so you can be more accurate. If there's specific things that you want, it's a lot easier to do that by pre-programming rather than trying to run it all live. So we'll go ahead, I'll show you that quick clip, and then we'll jump back in here. Alright guys, so there's an example of where I was able to use a step effect to help enhance the song, accent some of those different points. Now again, that was for a conference. Maybe it's a little bit farther than most people would go during a church service. It really depends again on your style. So after that, I just kind of want to sum up basically what we've talked about today. There's a few things that you really need to focus on when you're working on designing your lighting. First thing is your fixtures and positions. Where are you putting your fixtures? If you're using just a static wash light, you need to make sure that you're actually hitting what you want to. Make sure everything is right there. But once you have your rig actually built and set up, then it's just a matter of programming. And your main things that you want to focus on there is intensity, your color, and your position. Your color is possibly one of the most important things, because if it doesn't match with the song, because of all of the research that's gone into how color and emotion are linked, using the right colors can really help to enhance that worship service. Not using proper colors in there, it's probably not going to derail the service, but it won't be as impactful as it could have been. Intensity is a great way to work with. You can start really low and then build up huge with the song. One of the big things to remember is darkness is actually your friend in lighting. Being able to pull out some of that lighting and maybe not use it, just because you have it doesn't mean you have to use it. That's a really important thing to remember. For me, one of my favorite things to do is actually pull out the front light. I really love doing that in worship, because I feel like front light, it helps to build a little bit of a wall actually between the people on stage and the people in the congregation. When you can pull out that front light, you kind of lose a bit of that wall. And it makes it feel more like it's just one giant congregation worshiping together, rather than people up on stage leading the worship. So it's a really cool way that you can maybe help out a little bit there. And then finally, position. And that only applies if you have movers, obviously. But so those are the things that you should think about. I hope you guys like this video. Like I said, I'll be making a couple more videos. I'll be focusing on Grand MA and how to make it really user-friendly so that any volunteer can walk in and use it, and then also how you can do a little more in-depth programming. If you guys have any questions or any thoughts on what you'd like to see in the future, please leave them below in the comments. Other than that, have a great day, guys. Thanks for watching.